Hello, everyone, and welcome to Season 5 of Goddamn Gamecube. If you like our show, please leave us a rating on Spotify and subscribe on YouTube. Thank you, and enjoy today's episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Goddamn Gamecube. Greg and Nick the Intern are leading the way today, and today we are doing a critical review of Fire Emblem Engage. Oh boy.
Here we go.
I don't know about this one. I would say we will use a classic line. We have some compliments. We have some grievances. Nick the Intern, take it. Let's go.
Let's go. Thanks, Greg. Appreciate the intro. So it's been a while since we've talked Fire Emblem on this show. Not since Season 1, I feel like.
Is that true?
There hasn't been a new game since then.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so to start us off, Fire Emblem Engage is a tactical role-playing game released on January 20th, 2023, which was 6 days after my birthday, by the way. Pretty sweet.
I remember we were saying like happy birthday to Nick or not, depending on how good it is.
Depending if it was good or not.
Yeah.
It is the 17th installment in the long-running Fire Emblem franchise.
So they've gotten out ahead of Final Fantasy.
Which is crazy, right? Yep. And with this entry, believe it or not, Fire Emblem finally has as many mainline games on the Switch as they do Warriors spin-offs.
Oh my God.
Don't even get me started about
I know.
that. But this game was developed by Intelligent Systems, as pretty much every other Fire Emblem has. And interestingly, with little to no involvement from Koei Tecmo, who famously developed most of Three Houses.
Interesting. Okay.
All right. So the premise of Fire Emblem Engage details the adventures of the divine dragon Alir in the world of Elyos as they recently awakened from a pretty cool 1,000-year nap to the news that the fell dragon Grima, Sombron, has returned because of the dark dragon worshippers from the country of Plegia. Elusia. If that sounds familiar, it's because they've reused this plot point many times.
Yep.
Well, anyway, divine dragons aren't anything new to Fire Emblem. There's quite a few. They're typically deities. And now you get to play as one. So I guess that is the true difference here.
So I would say, like, you and I have affectionately referred to this game as guys from 1,000 years ago,
Yes.
which you heard in the intro song. So Nick, why don't we keep going here? I've got plenty of jokes about this game, but we'll keep it serious for now.
Oh, we're going to get into some jokes.
Yeah, we got plenty of memes here.
All right, so let's get to our initial thoughts pre-release. Much like Three Houses, we were pretty nervous about this title.
Oh, absolutely.
Thankfully, I think we were pretty wrong about a lot of what we thought was going to be wrong with this game, at least in some respects. So Greg, why don't you tell me, what were your thoughts pre-release as some of the info started to come forward?
Oh, I was very worried.
Yeah.
Now I don't quite remember like what grade we gave Three Houses when we reviewed it.
We didn't give grades back then,
Okay.
actually. Yeah.
So my problems with Three Houses were it was barely a Fire Emblem game. It was more of a social simulator, and you battled once a month on a calendar system. And I was worried we were going to get it again. So I'm very glad that we did not.
Yes.
I also was very worried because not only we didn't see much like about the game at all, which is typically a bad sign.
Yep.
Also, the game title Fire Emblem Engage makes it seem like it's a mobile game.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I was going to bring that up later, but we'll talk about that now. I hate the title of this game,
too.
by the way. They probably would have used it for the mobile game if they didn't already have one.
I know.
But if you know this series, like, think about the titles, right? You have titles like The Blazing Sword, Genealogy of the Holy War, Path of Radiance, and then you get Engage?
I know.
Did they take a cue from the Bravely Default guys for this?
I hope not.
Because if they did, we should tell devs to stop naming games after like systems within the game. It doesn't work.
You know what? I kind of forgot that Bravely Default named it after one of their systems until right now.
Yeah. And
I hate it.
We shouldn't do this. Anyway, before we get into the main part of the game, a Nintendo Dream interview came out fairly recently, and it brought up some interesting points. And I feel like it would be good to go through them. It has been translated from Japanese, so It's not super well known, but here are the main points I thought would be pertinent to our discussion. So, Fire Emblem Engage was developed around the same time as Three Houses, interestingly enough.
Wow.
Which would explain why they outsourced most of Three Houses' development to Koei Tecmo.
Got it.
And their their goal with Engage was to make it as tonally different from Three Houses as possible.
Well, I wish they said that because I
know,
was
right?
worried the whole time.
Right? And because of this game actually was almost set to release in 2020 for the 30th anniversary of Fire Emblem.
Makes a lot of sense because the entire game is recalling characters from earlier in the franchise.
They never said it was the anniversary game. It's kind of assumed that it was.
kind of is.
But because of this interview, it seems like it was going to be. And then a lot of things were affected by COVID-19. This game's development was as well. And instead it was pushed to 2023. There is some silver linings there because they said in the interview they were able to perfect some of the gameplay systems in the new time they had to complete the game, which is good, I guess. So I want to know your thoughts about this. A lot of reviews when this game came out, and now knowing this pre-story about how Engage was developed, said Engage was not Three Houses again, and that's a bad thing. How do you feel about reviewers saying that?
I mean, I put this on Twitter where I tweeted out from goddamn GameCube. Engage is not Fire Emblem Three Houses. Good.
Yes.
Yeah, good, right? Because I was so worried that we were going to get it again and Fire Emblem is going to become a social game like Persona. I love Persona 5, but I don't want Fire Emblem to be that.
Right.
And I wanted them to go back to it being a hard-nosed tactical game. And for the most part, we got that.
We did.
With this game, at least in terms of the gameplay.
Yes.
So here's what and this drives me crazy,
Yep.
but here's what I don't want to do. I find myself like, I don't want to yuck somebody's yum because everybody likes Three Houses. But it's hard for me to say that I like it.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed playing it, but it's just not what I want from this franchise.
It's probably the Fire Emblem game I've replayed the least.
And it kind of bothers me when I see on the internet, people are so amped for Three Houses. They're so amped for the characters and the dialogue and the story. I mean, Nick, you and I have discussed this a lot.
Yep.
I personally don't feel that Three Houses, the storytelling is that good for it to be this pillar of storytelling.
Right. Like, it's fine, but it's not crazy.
That's what I mean. Like, it's hard for me to articulate that. The Three Houses dialogue and voice acting and story is fine. It's not some pinnacle of narrative.
No.
And everyone is holding it up like this amazing Fire Emblem game. It's all right.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
I don't know either. And for that reason, I don't think Engage got as much buzz. Probably it may have deserved more buzz.
Well, it's kind of like its own undoing. There were barely any trailers.
Yeah.
There was no gameplay. The leaked footage looked like a really bad Toothpaste Man.
You know, I did forget about that. The leaked footage that came out
it looked terrible.
A few months before release, it did not look good.
It looked terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, speaking of looking good, that is a great segue to get into the presentation of Fire Emblem Engage.
It does not look good.
So, before we get into the look and feel, as soon as you load into the game, literally within a second, you are smacked in the face by Emblem Engage, what we effectively refer to as guys from 1,000 years ago.
I was gonna intro the show like with this line, but we continued. I was gonna say I didn't expect Fire Emblem Engage to start off with a jump scare,
Right? Yeah.
which is like it's so weird.
Yeah.
Like I feel like. Okay, I'm glad they pushed the game back because any sort of delay that means better quality, I welcome. I think this game needed more time in the can anyway.
Yeah.
But it's really weird to me where as soon as you turn on the game, you're immediately hit with this giant J-Rock vocal and this song. It's really strange. There's no intro. There's no drum fill. It's just boom, lyric.
Just
I jumped.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah, I went, bah! Oh,
yeah,
God.
me too. I fucking jumped when this happened. And also, like, the song sucks.
Yeah,
Like,
it's like not good.
It sucks.
So
Yeah.
I was going to ask, not even playing any part of the game yet. You turn on the game and that's literally what you're met with. How did this influence your initial thoughts before you even started?
Oh, I
it?
thought this game was going to suck.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Me too.
Like, I mean, the trailers were bad. The
Yep.
leaked gameplay's bad. The intro song sucks. It feels like it's really shoddy how it was implemented. Like, you're getting tech issues off the bat. Honestly, for the first 4 or 5 chapters, I think I texted you, dude, I think we're in for a bad one here. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, no, I feel you on that, especially with the intro, because if you don't remember, Three Houses also had an intro. It was not J-pop, J-rock, whatever. It was a very dead serious, anime-inspired, but an incredibly serious intro compared to this.
You know what? That's a good way to describe it. Like, I'm not making fun of it because of the genre.
Yeah.
It's silly.
Right.
It comes off as like very it comes off as too like happy rock.
Yes.
It's very odd.
Yes,
And
exactly.
it's not the good odd where like Silent Hill 2, the intro song is like a weird 90s pop song. It's really weird, but the game is really sad.
Right.
But in Fire Emblem Engage, you're getting this very energetic rock song that just doesn't meld with the tone of the game at all. It's
it doesn't.
Really strange.
It really doesn't.
Yeah.
So now that we're past the intro song, we need to talk about the art style. And I need to rant, so if you'll give me the floor for like a minute here. Okay. Fire Emblem has never been the series you go for graphic fidelity, okay? It never really has been that. But what the games have is style.
Yeah.
You know the Game Boy Advance sprites. You know the Super Nintendo titles like Genealogy, The Holy War. That style just screams like wispy fairy tale style thing. This style means nothing to me.
Yep.
It is generic. It is these bright colors. The character designs are out of control. Like, I don't understand. It doesn't look like a serious game.
So I can actually jump on this for a second.
Please.
I was actually reading some interviews with the art director of this game.
Oh, Mika Pikaza, I believe is their name.
You could be right,
Yeah.
or it could have been the producer.
Sure.
One of the developers was saying they have this, I'm going to call it anime art style. They wanted it to appeal to a broader audience and folks who have never played this before. And how did we describe this? This art style just looks like Genshin Impact.
Yeah, when you look at an old Fire Emblem character, you're like, oh, that's a Fire Emblem character. You look like at a Fire Emblem Engage character, you're like, oh, this is some generic anime shit.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, man. Like, I have a soft spot for the 16-bit sprites.
Yeah, of
also,
course.
how they move around when you click on them. It's
course.
very cute.
Yeah.
Also, I liked how in all the cinematics in the old Fire Emblems, it was almost like a storybook.
Yes.
The character would come up as a flat image and there'd be text boxes.
Yeah.
These new games, they have less and less X factor in the visuals. They are less, what's the word? They're less memorable.
Yeah.
It's because they are more, I hate using the word generic to insult a franchise I like.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm tired. I hate yucking on this kind of stuff, but it doesn't feel individualistic anymore. It feels like, yeah, man, I saw this in Dragon Quest.
Sure.
I saw this in Fire Emblem.
Yeah.
Like, I saw this in Genshin Impact. Like, it all looks the same now.
And I'm just
I don't like it.
No, and I have one very specific critique with the art style.
Yeah.
This is a weird one. Why do multiple women have clothes so tight that their belly buttons show through the clothes? How does that even work?
I don't know.
Drives me nuts.
Well, then again, there's like sexualization of these characters
course.
too. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I don't like it at all.
No, me neither.
And I feel like, well, this kind of started in Awakening.
It did.
It just kind
did.
of got worse.
Yes.
Yeah. Now we're way past that. We're literally 10 years down the road.
Right. Well, anyway, so I think what hurts this a lot is a lot of the scenery. Sometimes you get these really detailed illustrations, and those look great. Like the individually textured snowflakes on the screen, the world map you traverse across, like the 3D-ish stuff. I think that looks phenomenal.
Kind of a throwback to Sacred Stones.
Yeah, but the art style of the characters and the cutscenes in a way. Now, I will say they look better in game than if you just saw a picture on the internet.
Yeah, sure.
But I don't know. Some people like this art style. It doesn't do it for me.
No,
I'm sorry if you like it, but it's not for me.
The best that I can say is that it's functional.
Yeah. Agreed. So that's the character art. Now we're going to get into another thing that really disappointed me. Now, the voice acting really disappointed me.
Yeah, the voice acting is bad in this game.
Much like graphic fidelity, Fire Emblem has never been the paragon of voice acting, but I feel like the series has come a long way since Goldoa will not move.
Yeah.
Especially because I did think we got some really nice performances in Three Houses, and they've gotten some high-end talent to voice at least the main characters. And the voice acting in this game, I think, is a huge step down.
I think it's everything. Like, the voice direction is not good. The script feels rushed and pointless.
Yeah.
Like, the performances are really hokey and corny and way overdone.
Right.
Here's what I don't understand. Like, then again, I am not a voiceover director. I don't understand how you can let this kind of stuff get a green light.
Right.
Where you're trying to make a serious game. Why is everyone like giggling and like shrieking? It's really weird. You would never talk like this.
No.
You know what's funny though? You and I talked about this off mic. I think you and I came to a consensus where the main character tried.
Yes.
Like, he tried with the script he was given. But it's not good. The script is stupid too.
I actually have that a little bit further down as like a shout out. You know, I think Brandon McInnes and Laura Stahl, they play the male and female versions of Aleer. I think they did the best they could
with what they were given.
And I give them credit for that. Now, fun fact. Did you know Micaiah is voiced, this is I'm leading into something with this. Micaiah is voiced by Veronica Taylor, who is a famous voice actor known as the voice of Ash Ketchum. She is a serious voice actor. She is incredibly talented, and she gave one of Three Houses' best performances as Manuela. Micaiah's voice is horrendous in this game. It does not suit her whatsoever. That leads me to believe the main issue with this game's voice acting is not necessarily the individual actors and the performance, it's the direction they were given.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, why are you even hiring these high-end voice actors to do voices that don't work for these characters?
I think Riley and I talk about this a lot. Like sometimes, like I feel like I have to like calm down my nerves here. This game has problems with the direction.
Yes.
Like, and it's just, you know, all these voice actors, if not all of them, these are very talented people. These are professional actors.
Right.
You can only do so much with the script you're given and the direction that you are given.
Right.
Like, and I do almost universally in this game. I either feel like the script was rushed, it's not finished, or there isn't enough intention behind it, or the localization is poor. It's all of these things. It's hard to kind of, because it is so bad, it's hard to parse out where. It's kind of do it all over again.
Yeah,
yep.
I agree. And because a lot of the voice acting was so bad, I was able to pick out a couple performances I thought were actually impressive. First is Yunaka from Laura Post is the voice actor. You like her or not, like Yunaka or not, Laura Post shows off an incredible range when playing her. Yunaka puts on this like show of like, all giddy and excited. But then when she's in battle, critical, killing people, her voice gets very low into a very serious tone. And I think Laura did an excellent job with that. It's really one of the only voices of the playable cast that I thought was excellent. And this one really makes me mad. Okay. It drives me nuts. One of my favorite performances in the series is Ian Sinclair as Berkut in Shadows of Valentia. They brought him back to play Bonet, a nothing character nobody gives a shit about. Why are you hiring these really like high pedigree voice actors to play shit roles or to give them terrible direction? I just don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, let's recall the intro song. You hired these people to star in a shitty anime.
I don't understand, dude. I don't understand.
I don't know.
Anyway, we're getting off of voice acting now, and now we're going to get into the music, OST, all that sort of stuff. I felt the music was fine. There's a few standout tracks. I think what really stood out to me in terms of music, though, is if you play some of the side quest maps having to do with characters from other games, there are some really interesting remixes from their games. And it's not always, hey, we picked a song from an old game and remixed it. For some of them, it's kind of a mashup, which I thought was really well done. Like how they melded together. An example is the song called Trial of Radiance. That's Ike's. It mashes, I think, 3 or 4 songs from both of the games he appears in, and they flow together extremely well. And I thought it worked. So, but I think one thing we should say about the music too is it's different than what we saw in Three Houses. Three Houses was this very epic orchestrated kind of thing where Engage I felt was a lot more subdued and cool.
And that's why the intro song makes no sense.
Right? Because like you sometimes listen to these, the world maps, like when you're in chapters and you're like, oh, this is pretty nice.
I think I brought this up too. I'm a little bit surprised that, you know, when whether you're selecting a chapter, selecting a file, they have that very subdued.
Yes.
I can't beatbox it or
like
sing it. Yeah. They have that. I'm surprised that wasn't the entire intro theme.
Right.
I'm surprised they did this rock tune at all.
Because I like that little theme.
I do too.
Yeah.
It felt more. I'm kind of engaged, you know, in what's going on now. I don't know.
Right. Because I think this series is a little underrated when it comes to its soundtrack. Most of the games do have a really good soundtrack. Yep. So I'm not saying I'm disappointed by the soundtrack of this game. I feel like it was adequate.
Is this the same person or did they have different composers?
There was a lot of composers who worked on this. Some of the composers, like they have a bunch of composers. Some of them worked on Three Houses and some of them worked on Engage.
Previous stuff. Okay.
Yeah. And the main composer was the sound director of this game.
Yep.
All right. So before we get to my last thoughts on presentation, anything else you want to bring up about voices, about music, anything like that? You think we're good?
It really led to me thinking the game was going to suck.
Yeah. I agree.
It's just, I'm sure if you're listening to this, you've played this game or you've played the franchise. You get a lot of like things that taste bad in a row.
Yeah.
Like, trailers are bad, leaked gameplay's bad. You turn the game on, the music sucks.
Yep.
Like, you get the voice acting off the bat, it's very poor. You get the art direction you don't like, and you're like, man, I don't have a lot to hold on to here.
No.
Ouch.
Okay. So I'm going to get to my last thoughts on presentation. This section has been really negative, but I do want to end it with a positive note. I think that technically the game runs well. And I think it runs much better than Three Houses did. I know we're comparing it a lot in this section, but I feel like because Three Houses and Engage are on the same hardware, it's a rightful comparison. Pretty much everything about Engage runs better than Three Houses. You very rarely get frame dips, and usually when you do, it's self-inflicted. You can made a lot of stuff happen. Generally, the game runs pretty well. I know you had some issues with initial load screens, but generally the load times were much quicker.
Yeah, especially like in combat, runs really smooth. Like the hits and missing and crit animations are smooth.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up too. I think the animation in this game are actually excellent. Some of the best we've seen. They're fluid, they're dynamic, people are jumping around. Okay. You know what I think makes a good Fire Emblem animation? It's kind of why everybody loves the Game Boy Advance one so much. It's like there's a side of realism, but also a side of ridiculousness.
Yeah.
Why is the general animation from the Game Boy Advance game so loved? It looks big and cool, but you also have a fucking chain axe that you shoot at people.
Dude, what's so funny? Do you know what I was just thinking of?
Yeah.
It was that.
Right.
Where like I was thinking about the general animation spinning the axe around and throwing it.
Like it's unrealistic, cool. It's goofy, but it's cool. And I feel like Engage does a lot of that. And I think as far as the presentation goes, the best parts of Engage presentation are the in-game battle animations. They're the best the series has seen probably ever.
Yeah.
All right. So do you have any final thoughts on presentation? Because we are going to get to probably the bulk of our discussion in a moment here, which is gameplay.
No, we should. This game is pretty much all gameplay to me.
Yeah.
So
let's buckle in. All right. Yeah. There is a lot to talk about in terms of the gameplay. Listen, you've been listening to this for a few minutes now. We've been very negative. We are about to be very positive about the gameplay here. If you're looking for positivity from goddamn GameCube, you're getting it right now.
Yeah, right.
Right off the bat, this gameplay is awesome. This is probably the best loop of Fire Emblem gameplay we've seen in a long time. The basic moves, if you've played a Fire Emblem game, you kind of know how this works. You control your little dudes around a map, you pick attack, and you go for it. This game includes a world map where you walk around, similar to games like Sacred Stones and Shadows of Valentia. And you have basic stats that that level up when you gain enough experience, like strength, magic, speed, and whatnot. And that all works great. But first, we're going to talk about the titular Engage system, which is the very new, innovative gameplay mechanic they brought to this.
Can I say something funny, like
Please.
right off the bat about the Engage system? I was making it like a joke to myself when I was playing this. For some reason, the Engage system makes more sense both in gameplay and in the story than Awakening does with the children from other time periods, even though neither of those things make any sense.
Right.
But these Engage characters coming back from like 1,000 years ago to help you as spirits, it actually makes a little more sense.
Yeah.
And I actually like it. Let me say this. I like the Engage buddy up system way better than the team up system in Awakening. I like it way better than what was the thing in Three Houses?
Oh, are you talking about like the crest system? All that stuff?
Yeah, all that stuff.
Okay.
I liked it better than those.
I did too. I wanted to say that we were kind of worried about the Engage system because it wasn't really marketed very well.
No.
Maybe it was a mistranslation, but it was marketed to players as you'll be able to summon other heroes from other worlds. Great. That sounds like the mobile game. Awesome. That's what I wanted. But no. So let me explain kind of what the Engage system is, and then we're going to talk about it a little bit. And I'm going to say it rocks. Okay. Throughout the game, you're given these things called emblem rings, and they're equipable items that you put on your character. They are rings of the 12 of the major characters known as lords throughout the series. And equipping them on a character will both increase their stats by a little bit and allows you to engage with them during combat, which opens up a few turns of new skills, new abilities, and some special engage-only weapons, which are nice callbacks to usually weapons those heroes used in their original game. So if you've played Fire Emblem games before, you'll probably get a smile on your face when you see some of these skills.
What I also thought was cool was you also get it's not too dissimilar from the confidant system in Persona 5 or the other Personas, where what I thought was cool about the Engage system, beyond everything you just said, what I thought was neat was all of your characters have a certain engage level with the 12 lords from the past. And that level increases, you can put points into it, you can level up the relationship, and you get passive bonuses too. Like you can take on skills of that lord. You can also take on passive bonuses. Various stuff, like if you want to permanently raise your character's constitution, that's available to equip. It's interesting how they did it, where it's not all combat focused. There are some passive bonuses.
And I think that's pretty cool.
Yep.
So first, I'm not going to say what every emblem does, but I'll list them all out. If we said every single skill and every single weapon, we would be here forever. So the 12 emblems available to you are Marth, Celica, poor Alm, he's not there, Sigurd, Leaf, Roy, Lynn, sorry, Ellawood, Erica, kind of featuring Ephraim, Ike, Micaiah, Lucina, female Corrin, and male Byleth.
Also, big down thumb here, the cowardice of no Hector in the main game.
I know. Really, really sad.
Absolute cowardice.
I see why they put in Lynn.
I know.
The only lane lord who uses bows canonically. There's a reason.
But I mean, come on.
I miss Hector.
Dude, I mean, the lack of Hector in the whole video game canon is just cowardly.
It's just, we need more Hector in things, okay?
I know.
All right, so now I want to talk to you about some of your favorite engage abilities, some of the combos you pulled off, because I want to quickly say, I think the Lynn emblem is insane on how much it does. She's probably the best one, right?
One of them.
Yeah, because she's, I also want to say something kind of funny about the Lynn emblem. Her final weapon is called Mulagir. She has never wielded that weapon in a main Fire Emblem game in her life, but she has it anyway. Whatever, it's fine. So what other emblems did you use a lot? What ones did you think you made the most use out of?
Sure. So I actually used a lot of I was really into like maximizing my passive bonuses.
Yes.
Like I used a lot of Constitution Plus or Build in this game.
Build,
I think it's called Build.
Yep.
I used that a lot. I also, Lynn gives you speed bonus, I believe.
Huge.
Which means you can, I did this where I leveled up Lynn's relationship with certain characters of mine just to get them high enough to get a speed bonus.
Yeah.
And I did that a lot.
Oh, absolutely.
Also, like there was some, what was the, I think it's the Micaiah move. I could be wrong. What was the move where you can just warp and just firebomb someone?
Oh, Celica's.
That's Celica.
Warp Ragnarok.
Yeah. Warp Ragnarok.
Yeah,
Yep.
some of them are really fun.
Yep.
I really liked Corrin too, because as I got really into this game and its systems, something that we both really like is terrain manipulation.
Yes.
Corrin does a lot of that, where you can just put a set of fire down, block the way with ice blocks.
Yep.
It's pretty fun.
There's another really cool one too, where we should bring this up as well, where sometimes the lord you have affects your weapon level and what weapons you can use, which is interesting. Like you can give any character the ability to heal.
Yes.
If you assign them to the right
Micaiah,
emblem.
yeah.
That's Micaiah.
Yes.
So example, like at some points in the game, like I had Yunaka healing, or I had is it Tiamat? Diamant?
Diamant,
I had Diamant healing, even though like you would never do that.
Yeah,
but
you can
I
just
have
give
them,
it to them.
you can just give them that ability. It was interesting.
Yeah. And even if they don't give the ability to use that weapon, I found giving someone, let's use Marth, for example, giving someone who only uses lances, giving them Marth's engaged weapons are all swords.
Yeah.
So they now have swords to use when they're engaged.
Yep.
It creates a lot of really cool ways to manipulate combat.
Yep.
And what I really like about it too, every character kind of has the thing they do in their class. I feel like giving them a certain emblem almost changes what they can do. Like you give almost anyone the Ike emblem, they become a tank.
Yep.
They can just take hits. I also felt the support emblems, as I'll call them, were like the more useful ones, like ones that gave you a support ability rather than ones that attacked.
Yes.
Like Byleth has the group dance, which is absolutely insane.
Yep.
And of course, I mentioned the terrain manipulation, which is really fun. And I do have to say, Micaiah's ability to make every staff an area of effect is hilariously fun and broken.
Yep,
if you know how to use it. Like warping 5 people into one place at once.
Well, I do want to say this too. Like, I don't want to miss this.
Yeah.
What I thought was really cute about the emblem system, I don't know, I call them the baby emblems or the secondary emblems. Or the mini ones. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Bond rings.
The bond rings.
Yes.
Yeah, where I call them like the baby emblems.
Yeah.
Because at the start of the game, you do not have enough Lord emblems to give to all your characters.
Yes.
So you can use these bond rings. And what the bond rings are is they are also characters from past games that just give baby bonuses instead of skills and abilities.
Yeah.
Like it was really cool where I really liked how, you could get a Bond ring from a Super Nintendo game, and it's a character from that game who gives you +2 strength permanent.
Yeah.
If you have it on.
And
it's cute.
There's also a lot of good things about doing that too. I'm not sure if you knew this. It took me a while to figure this out. Your characters don't gain skill points in combat unless they've equipped with an emblem ring.
Yep.
Bond rings also work for this.
Yes.
So it's very important to forge them. And there's also a point in the story we'll get to where bond rings become very important, but we'll get to that later when we talk story.
Yep.
So now that you've talked bond rings, there's something I want to bring up that I didn't really mess around with or notice, and I think it's a really cute feature. Did you ever mess around with the ring reference menu?
No.
As you either increase your bond level with an emblem ring, or as you summon better rings, more rings of characters from past games, it actually gives you more information in their bios in the ring reference system.
Cool.
I know, I think it would have been a lot cooler in like 2002 before the internet and wikis were widely available.
Sure.
You can just look them up on a wiki now, but I thought that was a neat little touch.
I mean, clearly this is a Fire Emblem anniversary game.
Yes.
They're recalling every character from games American fans never played.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty cool.
Yep.
The one last thing I'll talk about before we get on to the skills system is weapon proficiencies. Every emblem also provides you a weapon proficiency as you raise their bond level. Some emblems, it usually makes sense for what they use in their main game, like Marth gives a sword proficiency when you get a higher level. Those are very important when you start to customize your characters and get into more advanced features of the game. But now, Greg, because you mentioned it, we're going to talk skills now and the skill inheritance system.
Sure.
As you mentioned before, every emblem has inheritable skills that you can put on your characters. And you do this using one of the menus. So I found a lot of them to be really cute references to other past games, and I'm going to name a couple right now. Celica's favorite food is kind of a nod to Shadows of Valentia, because as you traverse dungeons, you ate food, and characters had their like ones that they liked. And Ike's demolish skill, which breaks stuff immediately, like breaks destructible terrain on the field, is a reference to him always being called clumsy in his home game.
I didn't even remember that.
Yeah, it's cute, right?
Yeah.
There's some really cute ones, but I think my favorite is Leaf has every single weapon proficiency except for magic, because his class in Fire Emblem 4 is able to use almost every single weapon in the game.
I got it. So it all aligns.
It all aligns. I think they put a lot of care into the skills the emblems gave.
There was, for as much grief as we gave the game in every other aesthetic category, there was a lot of care put into the respect for past games.
Yeah. I agree. So I'm going to ask the audience now if you, what were your favorite combinations? There's a ton of stuff you can pull off in this game, and I'm sure there's a meta or like what people say are the best possible ways of beating this game. But
yeah, sure. Like, I mean, if in the comments, tell us the characters you played with and who you assigned them to.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah, because we may have used the exact same team, but depending on what emblem rings you assign them, they could have performed totally different. So before we go on to the next topic, there is DLC for this game that does add more emblems in the form of emblem bracelets. Those characters are Tiki, Crom and Robin, I guess they're roommates, Soren, Veronica, Camilla, and Hector.
Fuck yeah.
Our boy is a DLC emblem, and I love that. I don't mind the inclusion of emblems as DLC. I think it's kind of assumed that was going to happen, but it does piss me off at one point in the story, which we'll get to. More on that when we talk through the story part of this game. All right, so we already talked skills. So Greg, now that we're done with the skills, the emblem system, how do you feel about skills and the way they were handled in Engage versus skills in other Fire Emblem games?
So I think I've been on mic saying this. I actually prefer Fire Emblem as a skillless game.
Yeah,
By
totally.
skillless, I mean, when we're referring to skills in Fire Emblem, we are not referring to the stat skill,
which is now called dexterity.
Yes. We are referring to those things like Vantage and Astra, and those really wild things that have a chance to trigger during combat. I generally don't like them. Because I feel like what's my problem with Fire Emblem the past 10 years, besides all of it, is like the numbers get too crazy. Like I shouldn't be doing 30, 40, 50, 100 damage to people. I don't like it. But I think in this game, skills are very, very restrained.
Yes.
Like there's a lot of restraint with what you can do. It's very limited and it feels better. Almost like the GameCube Path of Radiance. Yeah, there are skills, but there's not a lot. It's really like Ike who can use them. There isn't a ton going on. And this feels like they really put a clamp on what you can do, and it's way more balanced.
I'm glad you said that, because that's what I love about the skill system in this game. In prior entries, especially Awakening, Fates, and Three Houses, like the main thing of that game was grinding through and running through all these classes, switching classes to keep their skills, and then making these crazy combinations. In Engage, you can't do that.
Yep.
You have a personal skill, skills that, if you're equipped with an emblem ring that they give you, and 2 skill slots to inherit, plus a mastery skill with a class, which do not transfer over, which I like very much. You can't run through Berserker, take its skill, and then switch to another class and still be able to use it.
Yep.
And like you said, it's limiting, it's restrained, and I think the SP system is incredibly limiting too. You don't get a lot of it.
No, you don't get a lot of SP in the game, and even if you want to grind for it takes forever.
They have included sorry to interrupt, in some of the waves of DLCs for free, they have included some additional ways to gain SP, so it's not as painful anymore. But I would say if you're still playing the game without grinding, it's going to take you a while.
I think they did this, it was a very positive thing that they did, where yes, you have a ton of options and customization of how you want to build your party, but you when you're committed to it, you have to really plan it out.
Yeah.
You do not just get like an infinite, like, I don't know, SP to do whatever you want with your characters. I really planned out what I was going to get.
Yeah. And I think when we talk about restraint here, we're talking about it in a positive light.
Yes.
We like, with these strategy games, we like when we have to resource manage a little bit. It's sort of, for me, it makes the experience a little bit more rewarding.
I want to take every game more seriously.
Right.
Yep.
And I think this sort of system does. Now, if you want to get certain skills with your emblem rings, you can expedite the process by spending a new currency known as bond fragments, which I think you get plenty of throughout the game. And you use those to, in a weird system where you and the emblem kind of just beat the hell out of each other in the arena. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but if it works, it works, I guess.
I appreciate the bond fragment system because if you had to pair someone up in combat to raise their level, it would take too long.
Yeah, so I'm glad you can just kind of do it.
Yep.
And eventually you will cap out the bond at 10, and then you can open it up to 20 by doing that emblem's respective paralog, which is basically a side quest that opens up as the story progresses.
Yeah.
I felt that was a pretty good way to do it.
I think it's totally fine.
All right, so now you may be thinking, goddamn Gamecube, Nick the intern, host Greg, you do all this stuff, but where exactly do you get it done?
Yep.
Well, I'm gonna tell you. The main base of operations, called the Somniel, which is basically a flying dragon space fortress, acting as your base of operations.
It's kind of like a less confusing, like Fire Emblem Three Houses school grounds.
Yes,
Yeah.
I was going to bring that up because I'm going to ask you, the Somniel is not the Garreg Mach Monastery again. It is very small. There's not as much going on. What did you think about the Somniel, and do you think it's better or worse than the monastery?
It's so much better.
Thank you.
Like, come on. I mean, the thing about Fire Emblem Engage is, yes, you have a home base, the Somniel.
Yep.
Like, there are shops, there's a smithy, you can talk to your allies, but the stupid shit is really kept to a minimum.
Yep.
Yeah, like there's a cute exercise mini game for your main character. There's a handful of social things you can do, but it's very, very limited.
Yeah.
I like it so much better. Like, I keep the stupid shit away from me in these games. I can't do this.
I agree, dude. I think I love how like unrequired it feels. I feel like sometimes between chapters, I didn't go back to the Somniel. I didn't feel like it. And I feel like it didn't hurt me. You know, you basically go back if you want to forge something, maybe you want to buy some weapons, maybe you want to do some arena battles, which are also limited, which I didn't mention.
Yes.
Arena battling for experience, you're limited to 3 per chapter, which I think is nice too. But I don't think the Somniel is really super necessary. Like, there's all these side things you can do, compared to something like Three Houses where, okay, I'm in the monastery. I got to give all my characters a gift. I got to go raise all their shit.
It was so
Nothing.
fucking annoying.
I
can't do it.
It's actually what prevents me from going back to Three Houses and replaying it.
There's too much like secondary stuff bloat.
Yeah.
I don't want to play.
Right.
I mean, I do want to talk up next about our guy.
Okay, we're going to talk Sami?
Sami.
Let's talk Sami.
So I saw in your notes where you said, I have no idea what Sami is, but he's so cute. I believe in the story, they call him the guardian of the Somniel.
Which is amazing, right?
Which I think they're kidding. But I thought maybe he would have a more significant part in the story later, which we'll talk about. He doesn't.
He doesn't.
He's just a cute little dog
thing.
Goat thing that you can pet.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
No.
Nick and I were like, we want Sami DLC.
Yep.
We want to be able to play as him. He never joins you.
No.
But that's our guy.
I love Sami. And as soon as I saw him, I went,
Yep.
Oh my God, this is the best thing I've ever seen.
Yep.
I love this guy.
You got to go pet Sami every time.
Yes. He also gives you bond fragments, which is very helpful.
It does.
So really fun thing about Sami too, raising his bond level is it kind of helps if you're into doing mini games because he will help you. He'll help you catch fish. He'll help you shoot down things in the Wyvern game. I actually kind of like the Wyvern ride game. I think it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
So the last thing I want to talk about in the Somniel is the donation system. As you progress through the game and visit the different individual countries, you have the option to donate money to the individual countries to give you rewards, and it also increases some of the stuff you get after battle, like materials.
It's kind of like an investment game where, if you want to give up a large amount of gold, the rewards you get after battle are better.
Right. And I think it's really cool because money in this game is kind of finite.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up too. What I really appreciated about this game was really the balancing in general.
Yeah.
Where money is scarce. Like, you are not abusing the smithy. You are not abusing the buying of weapons. You really can't. You got to be really, really careful with what you buy.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of funny. People who do like end game content and try to grind and stuff, you actually will run out of money to like send your characters through these classes. Like, you can't afford to buy more seals for them to keep class changing.
Yes.
It's just, you just run out of money, which I think is pretty cool. All right. So do you have any last thoughts about the Somniel before we move on to the next section?
No, I just want to make one note that the bond rings we talked about are made through bond fragments. That's the main thing that you use them for, besides leveling up your allies.
And I did kind of crap on that, like on mic, and I also did in the season 4 finale, where it's kind of a gotcha system where you wager the bond fragments to try and get a ring. But it's not bad. You don't use real money. There's nothing like that. I think it's mostly fine.
Yeah, I think it's not. I wouldn't really call it a gotcha system.
No.
It looks like one, but it's fine.
No, I think it's mostly fine. All right. So I want to talk about the maps of this game in general. I think the map design in this game and the enemy AI in Engage is awesome.
Yeah, there's a level of challenge in this game that's been missing for really the past 10 years.
Yeah. Like, I think we both played this game at first on normal classic. And I think some maps, even on normal, gave me, I'm a veteran of this series, some challenge.
Yeah, there are a handful of times where it got me, for sure, where I had to rethink this, go back, try again.
Right. There's a couple of maps that I noted here. I always make sure to note when these games get me, because I played this series for a long time. Things don't really trick me anymore. But one of them, in Byleth's Paralog, he has 2 warp staff users who warp in enemies to go and attack you. He will dance to make them go again and warp more enemies to go attack you. That caught me way off guard.
Yeah. I mean, there's also, we'll talk about it during the story session, but there are a couple of, I was really waiting for this. There are a couple of mission objectives that are not defeat all.
Right.
Or not seize or whatever.
Which is great.
There's some like escape or reach place or whatever it is.
And even if it's a generic objective like defeat boss, there's sometimes a secondary objective too.
Yes.
Like with one map, the objective is defeat boss, but if the enemies also cross certain threshold, you lose.
Exactly.
Which is pretty cool. I think there was a lot of care put into this.
There's like specifically Fire Emblem 7 and previous entries, way old ones, they did a really good job of making you juggle multiple things at once.
Yes.
Where the recent games just have not done.
No.
You have to really keep a couple of things in mind when you're playing.
And I think in terms, maybe not more so like individual things to do on a map, but the way enemies react to you and all of that, it's a lot for you to keep in mind as a player. And what this game does really well, the Engage system is obviously very powerful. You are given the Draconic Time Crystal, which lets you rewind turns. You are given a lot of really powerful tools, but they don't feel overpowered because the map design is so good.
Yep, the map design is way better than Three Houses.
Absolutely. If you want to make a total comparison, if you're a Three Houses player and have not played Engage and are planning to, be prepared. The maps are a lot more challenging, a lot more diverse, and a lot more interesting than that game. All right, so now we're going to move into a hodgepodge of combat changes they made to this game. First, we're going to talk about the break system.
Which I think the break system, thank God, the weapon triangle is back.
Yes.
Almost in its full form.
Very close.
This is one of the best parts about classic Fire Emblem. You know, swords beat axes, axes beat lances, lances beat swords. Certain magic is better against other magic, etc. Just gives you another thing to think about while you're playing this chess game.
Yeah.
And what I really love about the break system, I had some notes about this as well. What I think is cool about the break system is, okay, example, let's say you have the weapon advantage, you have sword versus axe. if you hit the enemy and you break them, they cannot counterattack you, and they cannot. They can't commit an action during that turn.
Yes.
What I love about that is in old Fire Emblem, even if I'm at a weapon disadvantage, if I outstat you, it doesn't fucking matter.
Like the end game weapon triangle in old games. I've mentioned this in our previous Fire Emblem retrospective. Typically, when you get to late game in old Fire Emblem games with this system in place, the triangle starts to not matter because your characters are too good. This game, you've got to keep it in mind the entire time.
Yeah. Oh my God, there's so many times when like I got broken by enemies and you cannot respond.
Yeah, it's like, fuck.
Yeah.
And that's
and
also
you're left helpless.
Yeah. And you know what also got me a lot too? You know, sometimes if you're being kind of lazy when checking enemy weapons or whatever, you may not notice that, okay, I'm facing a Great Knight. He's got an axe equipped. I'm going to equip my sword. Oh shit, he had a lance in his inventory. I'm broken now and I can't react.
Yeah.
It's awesome. So now I'm going to go through a whole bunch of weapon changes. Weapon durability is gone except for staffs. They've tried this a couple times in the series to, I would say, not very good effects. How do you feel about weapon durability in games in general, in Fire Emblem specifically, and then in this game?
Okay, in Fire Emblem, I love it.
Yep.
Because you can't just take out a legendary weapon and lay waste.
Right.
You don't, sorry, buddy, that's 30 uses. I love that. I thought it was awesome in 7. It's awesome in the old ones.
Yep.
You have to be careful of what you fucking use. I think it's awesome.
Yep.
This game, I like how healing staffs are by durability and other weapons are not, because weapons are expensive.
Yes.
You don't find them, and making them better is even more fucking expensive.
I think that's a really good point, because in the other games, they've tried this a couple times, you know, unlimited durability, and it hasn't really worked because, one, weapons were you got them pretty easily. They weren't super expensive, or in the terms of fates, they had these weird drawbacks to using them.
I fucking hated that.
That was stupid. That was so stupid.
That.
But I think this game, I actually generally agree with you. I like the resource management of older Fire Emblems, but if they're going to have no weapon durability, I think the way Engage did it was pretty much the way to do it.
Yep, where like legendary weapons are through Engage only.
Yeah.
And then good weapons are really expensive.
Yes.
Yep.
And almost everything can be forged too, which is cool.
And the forge is incredibly expensive.
You know, now that we're talking about the forge, I'll jump right to my point about weapon forging. I like the forging system in this game because it does cost your resources. You do have to be pretty particular about what you upgrade and what you don't, mostly, especially when you get to higher levels, because it takes a lot of materials and a lot of money, which you've mentioned is pretty finite. Unless you have a dog mining system in your Somniel, but yeah, that was kind of funny. One thing I don't like about weapon forging, it sort of invalidates treasure chests and things you find in battle.
Yeah.
So in a late chapter, you find the Brave Bow. If you were playing an older Fire Emblem game, you'd be like, yes, I got the Brave Bow. In this game, he's like, oh, I forged that like 8 chapters ago.
Exactly.
It's not, I don't really need it anymore.
It's not the most balanced thing in this game.
Right. I do like the forging system, but I think that one part I was like, okay. It made me not think chests were a priority.
Yeah.
So let me go back a little bit. I don't know how much you messed around with this. I never thought I would actually talk about this specifically in terms of Fire Emblem game. I thought staff combat was awesome.
Yes.
It was so much fun.
Yep.
Things like freeze staffs. You can like freeze people in place. You can silence them again. You can literally
like
create ice blocks.
warp and rewarp and all this weird stuff.
And what I find now, not that other Fire Emblem games haven't had this, but what Engage does well is it gives you enough of them to, one, not be overpowered, but two, to say, okay, I can use a use and I'm not going to feel too bad about it.
Yes.
You get enough warp staffs throughout the game where if you have to use it because you're in a pinch, you can generally get away with using it.
Yes.
And I thought that was great. Knives and fist weapons are back.
Knives are way too good.
Just like they were in Fates, knives are way too good.
Yeah.
And they also cause the poison status effect,
which lowers defense.
Yes.
Is that right? Yeah.
Which makes you do more damage to the enemy, which is kind of cool. Fist weapons are also back. They're not as cool as they were in Three Houses. They're referred to as arts in this game. Although I do like, as it's a bit different, the way they made healers. They don't just sit there and use a staff and just take damage. They just beat the shit out of people with their fists.
Yeah.
Which I find
like
fairly
healers
comical.
are also fist.
Yeah, they're martial artists.
They're also martial,
essentially.
which is kind of funny.
Yeah, I think it's fun. All right. So can we talk about what the fuck happened to thieves?
Okay.
What the fuck? Treasure chests no longer require lockpicks. Anybody can just do it. All doors can just be broken. I find there is thieves are this utility class. They can't promote in this game, by the way.
They can't. Yep.
So if you have a thief, they're there for utility. They don't have any utility. Not really.
It's weird. It's probably I wish it was in it. I don't hate that you can break down doors.
I don't hate that either.
But like, I kind of miss the cat and mouse game of beating other thieves to treasure chests.
Right.
Having to make sure I go get the treasure because the enemy's going to take it.
Which it's all kind of funny because thieves are really good combat units in this game.
Like Yunaka is unbelievable.
Right. As opposed to utility, which is kind of weird. Listen, I don't necessarily need lockpicks, but I did like it when thieves had this general skill of being able to open stuff.
Yeah, where they had this unique out-of-combat skill where you needed them.
Right. They still are able to see well in the fog, but you don't get a ton of that anyway, so I don't feel like it's that useful.
Fog of War isn't really developed in this game.
There's a couple.
There's a little.
Yeah. All right. And now there's one thing that we really love. Build is now an level upable stat when your character levels up. I love this.
I love that like build and constitution matter again.
Yes.
Because I remember in Fire Emblem 7 specifically, where Elowood is not big enough to use his own legendary weapon.
Yes.
Like, so he's going to get weighed down unless you body ring him twice.
Right.
So what I think is really cool in this game, your constitution, how big you are, can level up as a part of random chance, which I think is awesome because weapon weight is now very important again, where you are going to get speed minuses if you do not have the appropriate build to hold it.
Yes.
And that means I really like how different characters have very realistic build stats.
Yeah.
If you're on a horse, you're huge. If you're tiny Yunaka, you are tiny.
Yeah.
Like, and you getting 6 or 7 build is really hard.
Yeah.
That's why I put passive build on characters like that.
Like, I didn't like actually engaging with the leaf emblem all that much, but I think his passive build increase is super important,
helpful.
Especially early on in the game when your characters are these puny little things trying to wield big weapons.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. The next thing I'm going to mention is revive crystals. This is a totally new mechanic where starting in a certain chapter, most bosses will have multiple health bars.
Yes.
And you have to delete a health bar. They break a crystal. You move on to the next one. I think this is awesome, and I'm going to tell you why. A lot of Fire Emblem games focus on the enemy phase where, okay, I'm going to equip a hand axe and just mow down a bunch of people.
Yep.
This game is very player phase oriented. You have to be very meticulous in the way you play your own turn. You're very rarely going to sit there and just wait. And for these bosses, coupled with the break system, you generally have to pile on them to get a kill. You can't just have your one super-powered unit go in and take out a boss.
Yep.
It doesn't work that way.
Yep, for sure. I mean, they could have just alleviated or changed this by just having their health bars be really big.
Sure, they could have done that.
They could have done that too, but it's the same thing where they have multiple health bars. And you're right, where it made me stack my units against them.
Yep.
Rather than it just being, I'm going to go throw my best guy or the guy I want to train against this boss.
Right. You generally can't do it. And even if they had big health bars, if you had grinded a ton, keep in mind, if you delete a revive crystal, there's no excess damage.
Yep.
It doesn't go into their next health bar.
Exactly.
So you just really, even if you overpowered a unit, you really just can't go and delete a boss.
It's interesting. We're like, I have to. This guy has 3 health crystals or whatever. He has 40 health. I can't. It's not 40 times the number.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You have to delete 1 health bar at a time.
Yes. I think it's pretty cool. I do like that.
I like it.
Yeah. And it is, for the most part, unless you have a DLC emblem, enemy only. Your characters cannot use this system unless you do the DLC. So I kind of like it when the enemies stack against you, which I actually didn't mention. Enemies can also use emblem rings against you.
Yes.
Which is pretty cool.
Yep.
The next thing, I actually thought this is one of the few gameplay additions that I thought was a little undercooked, which is the Smash system.
I never used it.
Yeah, I mainly used Smash weapons. They're, if you've played older games, things like the Iron Blade, Great Axes, Great Lances, those make a return, but they're mostly used for this system called smashing, which pushes an enemy unit backwards about a space. I mainly use these. Oh, and sorry. And also, you cannot follow up with these weapons. You cannot attack twice in combat. And if you initiate combat with one of these weapons, the enemy moves first.
I think that really defeats it being useful.
Yeah. I really only had them on these big, bulky characters who would only use them on enemy phase anyway. Or if you are loading up for a really strong engage attack, which can't be countered anyway, you might as well use one.
Yep.
But I really only use them for the huge power they provide, not really for the smash
I never
system.
pushed anyone back ever.
I can think of maybe twice if someone was sitting on a forest tile, I wanted to get them out of there. That's really it. I thought that system was a little undercooked. I actually thought maybe in harder difficulties it would be more useful. It's not really.
I thought what might have been cool is if you have giant constitution, you can go first.
That'd be, that's actually pretty neat.
Like
that'd be cool.
You'd have to double the constitution or some sort of math that would allow you to do it.
Right, but it doesn't really work.
It's kind of undercooked.
Doesn't really work. All right. So one last addition to combat that they made, I don't like this either, actually, is the ability to walk around the battlefield after combat.
It's annoying.
I don't know, man. Again, did they take cues from the people who made Bravely Default? This is in Triangle Strategy, and it's the worst feature of the game.
Yeah.
So essentially, you run around the battlefield after you complete it, and you can collect stuff and talk to your party members. Generally, your party members don't have a lot of interesting things to say, although if someone does die, they will comment. Like, if you killed one of the character's friends, they will say something about it. Like, oh my God, I can't believe they're dead. How am I going to tell mom? Something like that. There's a little bit of flavor in there, but for the most part, I just kind of collected my iron ore and skipped it.
Yeah, exactly.
The good thing about it, you can just skip it and they'll give you bond fragments. You don't have to really collect everything or talk to anybody. Anyway, now they've changed unit types around a little bit and they gave them all a classification, which I think is pretty neat. I think it's really the last major change they made to combat. Every single class has a type. And they offer bonuses in combat, and they offer bonuses based on emblem rings as well. The unit types are dragons, not meaning wyvern riders. We mean dragons like Alir. Cavalry, people who are on horseback. Flying units like Pegasus and wyverns. Mystical units, most magic units. Chi adepts, which are most of the arts and fist users. Coverts, which are bow users and thieves. Armored, which are knights and generals, and backup units, which are pretty much all other footlocked units. All of these sort of give a bonus in combat. For example, knights and generals cannot be broken by attacks, which makes them useful. Knights and generals generally are not very useful units in Fire Emblem, but this makes them very useful. And backup units are super freaking good because of chain attacks.
Yep.
I'll just mention chain attacks very quickly. Basically, if you have a backup unit and they're in range of an enemy unit and you have someone else attack, they will jump in and do an attack of their own. Not dissimilar to pair up, but very pared down damage.
Yeah, well, by backup, you mean the class that they are is considered a backup unit.
Correct.
So it as one of the classifications.
That's correct. That's correct.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't base my party on these, but I do think it's interesting that they give you yet another level of customization.
Yeah, and I think the fun part about backup units, it actually detracts you from putting big guy in the middle to take hits. Because if you're facing a lot of backup units, backup damage is based on percentage of your HP. It's not based on defense or anything. So even a high defense unit will get whittled down by chain attacks and they can die. So you have to be careful of that. It's cool. It's another thing you have to look out for. And again, as I said, emblem skills do base bonuses based on a unit's type. So if you're, for example, a physical emblem like Sigurd, you should take a look and see it may offer bonuses to a mystical unit that you maybe didn't think about. Yep. So it's useful to put those kinds of emblems on different units and experiments, which I think is a pretty cool way of going about it. All right. Do you have any other thoughts on our little hodgepodge of combat changes? Maybe anything I didn't mention before I move on to class changing units and recruitment?
No. I'm just very happy with the break system, something I didn't think of.
Me too. I liked it a lot. All right. So very quick on class changing. It's actually very reminiscent of Awakening. A master seal promotes a unit, and then a second seal changes them to a different class. Pretty simple. And it's not like the old reclassing system where you can kind of just be whatever you want. You do have to go through those weapon proficiencies from emblems. It's actually kind of funny. I got screwed over because I wanted to make a certain character a Wolf Knight, one of the new classes, but I didn't have the emblem that gave me the knife proficiency. I couldn't do it.
Right.
So it's pretty cool way of doing it. I think it's limiting in a way. If you feel like spending the bond fragments to do it, you can do it, but it's not necessarily, you don't need to do it.
Right.
So how did you feel about this class system? I know we're not big reclassing guys on this show.
I'm not a reclass. So I actually, I don't mind the system.
Yeah.
I actually thought the actual classes available were not my favorite.
Yeah,
Like,
sure.
It wasn't the most cool and unique. It was kind of humdrum.
Yeah.
Also, I thought some of the designs were stupid.
Oh, me too.
Like, why do the sages now have exposed bellies?
I hate the sage design.
Why
It's
do
so
sages now
bad.
wear belly shirts?
It's stupid.
Why do they do that?
It's stupid.
Like, I remember when I turned clan into a sage, I'm like, you look like an idiot.
I'm gonna turn you to Mage Knight now. Sorry.
Yeah, what is this?
It's stupid. It's stupid.
Also, like,
yes.
why does your main guy get fists?
It makes no
It's
sense.
stupid.
It's stupid. No, I had an issue with the classes as well. I think a lot of the classes, especially the base classes, are kind of fodder.
Yeah.
You're never going to use them. They're basically enemy only at that point.
Yes.
But anyways, okay. I'm going to get into some math now.
Okay,
all
sure.
right? I'm going to make it quick. I'm going to get into math. Don't worry, I did all the math. You don't have to do any math.
Okay.
Just bear with me.
You said we were going to get into math in this
Yes.
episode, but you left it a mystery.
That's right. I have a huge problem with the recruitment in this game.
Oh,
Huge
sure.
problem.
Okay.
Now, I've compared the amount of free units you get in Engage versus another game in the series, which I feel both plays similarly and has a similar cast size, Sacred Stones.
Okay.
So here's the math. The playable characters in Engage is 36. 36 characters throughout the game. You have Alir and your starting squad, which makes 4 free units. You have 4 main royal units, plus they all have siblings who you all get for free. That's 8. Each royal unit has 2 retainers, and all except 1 is given to you for free. And there are 3 non-royal characters given to you at the start or during battle throughout the game. Do all the math. That is 30 out of 36 units are just flat out given to you for nothing.
Yeah.
In the game.
It's not interesting.
No. The other ones, there are 5 characters who start as other units, green units on the battlefield, but it's fake.
Yep.
Most of them, even if you don't talk to them, they will join you after battle if they survive.
Yep.
And generally, it's not difficult to keep them alive.
Yep.
I found there's really only one character in this list who will probably die if you don't recruit them in their chapter, and that's Sapphire.
Yep.
Everyone else, they're going to live. And don't come after me about Jade, okay? Anybody listening to this?
Yeah.
I tried this.
Yeah.
I left Jade alone in her corner of the map. I didn't even help her with the enemies. I beat the map and she joined me just fine.
Yep.
She was in no danger at all.
Yep.
And that actually, if you're doing the math with me, that is 35. Who is 36?
Lyndon.
Lyndon, the one enemy recruit.
Lyndon Johnson.
That's right. In the entire game.
Yeah, I just think enemy recruits have been something that has been lacking for years in
Yeah.
this franchise. Like,
Right.
I remember I go back to 7 a lot, but way back in those days, there were a ton of enemy recruitments. Also,
Yeah.
there were way more interesting recruitments.
Yes.
I very distinctly remember, we won't go off topic with 7 for too long.
Yeah.
I very distinctly remember you have to talk to Raven with Priscilla and with Raven and other characters. You can then save the green units.
Yes.
Because you saved Raven and the green units. You can then get Kanas because you get the X chapter.
That's right.
There's a lot more going on to get better units.
Right.
And they're not given to you. I don't even know in those older games who's given to you.
I did the math.
Hell yeah.
So I chose Sacred Stones as my basis of comparison.
Yep.
Because you run around a world map and you also collect royals from other nations. I
Great.
felt it was a good example.
Sure.
There are 33 playable characters in Sacred Stones. We are not counting Orson. He's there for 1 chapter. Don't come after me for that. You are given 16 characters for free.
Wow.
12 characters are other recruits that you have to talk to in battle with varying requirements, which are way more interesting than the way Engage does it. And there are 5 enemy recruits.
It's way better.
It's way better. It's a similar cast size, but recruitment is way more interesting in those older games. I don't know if you had the same thought while playing Engage. I'm like, they're giving me a lot of units here. I don't have to do anything.
Yeah, it's more interesting when you have to work for them.
Yeah.
Oh my God, like recruiting Jafar is fucking so hard.
Yes.
Like it's really cool. It also, like, you recruiting him also adds to the story.
It does.
The older game, I talk about it too much. I'm going to stop. But the older ones, there's just more going on at once than in these games.
I agree. Do you know how I would fix this? But there's one very simple way to fix Engage's recruitment.
Go ahead.
Okay? All right. Just work with me on this.
Okay.
All of the royal units are not required.
Okay.
There are 4 royal units who are the main ones. They show up in all the cutscenes, and they all have siblings. All those siblings are essentially considered expendable by the plot. They can die. The other royals cannot. They retreat. And I don't think every royal needed a sibling.
Yep.
So I am saying right now, we are getting rid of Saline as Alfred's sister. She is no longer a royal. She's still in the game, but she's no longer a royal. And we are getting rid of Fogato as a royal. He can still be in the game, but he's no longer a royal. What does this do? Now, it may only seem like 2 characters, but they both come with 2 retainers. That frees up 6 characters to recruit via more interesting methods.
Yep.
And while it's not as impactful as maybe older games, that means there are 6 less units you get for free and 6 more units you have to do more to get.
I thought maybe they didn't go far enough. Where I thought as you slowly convince countries to come to your side, I thought they were going to go one step further in, if you talk to the right people, that country will come to your aid. They also join your party or not.
Yeah,
this game is not going to go that far.
It didn't do that. So while I love the gameplay of Engage, the recruitment really just drove me nutty.
Well, the recruitment's been bad for years.
And that's also true. Yeah. I thought maybe because we had a return to form, this was not 3 houses again, that maybe we would get some more interesting recruitment. We unfortunately did not.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So do you have anything else you would like to say about the gameplay? Because we are about to get into the story.
That's a really good question.
Anything else you'd like to say?
I think we've tackled it all. I'm just taking a quick scan here through my preparation. Okay, I've only got one last piece. Yeah. It's been in all the games recently. I don't like it. I don't like how you can level grind in these games.
Oh, sure.
I mean, I think bonus EXP was my limit.
I love bonus
Gamecube,
XP.
But you can just grind as much as you want in 2020 your characters with no penalty.
Yeah.
I don't like it, but it's been in all the games, so I'm just over it.
Unfortunately, we have to be over it, but I wish bonus experience would come back. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, but let's get into the dog shit story and be done with this.
All right. So what I'm going to do with this story, we are not really going to go chapter by chapter here. I don't feel like enough happens throughout every individual chapter. So what I'm going to do is take chapters in bunches, kind of in individual arcs, and sort of give a summary of what happens, occasionally honing in on a chapter when A, something interesting happens, or B, when I have a major problem with it.
Yeah, sure.
How's that sound? Okay. Now, before I get into it, interestingly enough, and will make a lot of sense, the writer of the story is Nami Komuro. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Who is the writer of Fates and Awakening, and it shows.
Yeah, sure.
It shows a lot. All right, so let's get into the prologue up until chapter 3. You have this fucking fever dream of a prologue. It's blah, 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 blah. You're introduced to the Engage system. You're running through this big battle as Alir, and you face the weirdly sexy Fell Dragon Sombron. I don't know why they had to make him sexy, but they did. I don't like it, but they did. Anyways, after that happens, what we teased in the prologue, you wake up from a 1,000-year slumber and you have no idea what the fuck is going on, and you're greeted by 2 of the most annoying characters I've ever met in a Fire Emblem game, Clan and Fram. The only sane person here is probably Vander. So you're introduced to all these guys and you go on a little adventure to get to Lythos Castle, where you get into a skirmish with some Risen. Oh, geez. I mean, corrupted. That's what they're called in this game. They're essentially the same thing. And some big old dragon helps you, which turns out to be your mom. Okay.
I laughed at this.
I did too. I was like, oh, all right. That's my mom.
It's really
cool.
funny. Like, you're asleep for 1,000 years. Guys from 1,000 years ago comes up again. And then Clan and Fram, they're the 33rd stewards. Like, they're the 33rd generation of people waiting for you to wake up.
Yeah, pretty much. It's kind of funny when you think about it.
It's kind of funny, but like, you can't take the game seriously at the start.
No.
Like, it's so stupid.
No, absolutely not. All right. So then you have a practice fight against her and you have to beat her. I don't know. It's kind of weird. In chapter 3, Lythos is invaded by Elusian soldiers, which is something you're going to get used to in this plot. This happens a lot. And by some short person in a robe who steals all of the emblem rings that were given to Lythos. They were kept in the ring vault, except for Marth and Sigurd, because Marth is equipped on Alir, and Sigurd is equipped on Lumera, your mom. Then Lumera just dies, protecting Alir. I was like, what?
I laughed.
I was like, wait a minute.
She just dies immediately.
I was like, wait. And she has like the longest death scene?
Yeah.
And a fucking pinky promise? I don't know, man. I was, I don't know. Anyway. This is probably a loaded question. Was this an effective intro or opening to a game?
No. We should just move on. Like, okay, you wake up from a 1,000-year slumber. People are waiting for you to wake up. You look like a toothpaste man.
Yes.
You meet your mom, who's a dragon. Then she immediately dies.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not sure if we've mentioned that yet, but your character does have red and blue hair Both.
Which was really funny. It has story relevance later.
And we'll get to that.
It's really stupid.
All right. So the next chapter is the Firene arc, where you basically just save some villagers. I have a huge issue here with chapter 4. This is my Saline problem. I think Saline and the recruitment, even if she sticks as a royal, the recruitment of her retainers could have been so much more interesting. They're on the other side of the map.
Yep.
You actually, but you don't have to. You're the hidden objective is you use Saline to warp Ragnarok over to them to help them out. Why didn't you recruit them there? Why didn't they start as green units?
They don't do it.
They don't do it. I think it could have been more interesting. Anyway, whatever. I'm over it. Well, maybe not, but anyway. You're then introduced to one of the major antagonists, also known as Zephia, a comically underdressed villain who could have been menacing if not for her outfit.
Yeah.
It's really stupid. And then you're also introduced to Yunaka, who kind of sort of wanted to steal the Micaiah ring, but you caught her doing it. So now she's like, yeah, okay, I'll join you, whatever.
It's kind of like Matthew.
Kind of. So it's fine. And then you are also introduced to a pivotal player in this game, Vale, who is a mysterious girl who has no idea what the fuck is going on.
Her voice acting is terrible.
Yes. That voice is really bad. I thought the gameplay was okay here, but I wasn't entirely convinced about what was going on yet.
No, I think this is still the part of the game where I said, dude, I don't know about this game.
Yeah. All right, the next part of the game is the country of Brodia, and here is where I think some actual cool stuff starts happening.
Yep.
You get into the war with Brodia and Elusia. Apparently, they don't have a great history. King Morian of Brodia is always invading Elusia under the guise of, they're evil, we're taking our land back. But Elusia is like, what the fuck, man? So they kind of just get into this conflict all the time. You're introduced to the Elusian royal siblings, Hortensia and Ivy, who are going to become minor antagonists and bosses for the next few chapters. And this is an example of where you can see them using emblems against you, namely Lucina and Leaf.
Very interesting.
Yeah, and it was kind of scary. They're pretty powerful.
Yes.
If you let them attack you, they'll probably kill you.
Yes.
So you got to be careful there. You also meet the Brodian royal siblings, Diamant and Alchrist. For some reason, Diamant has been standing in front of his castle gate for a long time waiting for you. So while you were dicking around the Somniel, he's probably sitting there on his stopwatch being like, man, you're taking a fucking while
really
to
weird.
get here. It's kind of weird. Whatever. I actually do like Diamant and Alchrist dynamic.
I use them both.
Yeah, I like them both as units. And I like them both as characters. That's why I also said we shouldn't split them up. I think they work pretty well as siblings.
Yep.
So I like that. All right. So finally, you get to something really interesting that happens. In chapter 9 specifically, King Morian, who, Greg, I'm going to quote you. You said, oh, of course the sexy king is going to die.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. He is challenged by King Hyacinth of Elusia to one-on-one combat, purposely does not take the emblem ring with him, and is very surprised when Hyacinth uses the Lin emblem ring against him, shoots him in the chest. He's knocked out. Unconfirmed whether he's dead at this point, but he is at least captured by the enemy. And now your objective is to go after him. Unfortunately, Hyacinth has said, hey, Ivy, you lost your first battle. You're going to stay here as bait, and you're going to ward them off so we can go and take King Morian to become a sacrifice for Lord Sombron.
Yep.
All right. So I think that's a pretty effective chapter, although my issue with it is I thought the next two chapters should have been, how do I phrase this? You should have not been able to go back to the Somniel after this chapter.
It should have forced you to continue.
Right.
Yep.
There is a chapter coming up where you are forced to continue, but I felt chapter 9 should have also been included.
They should have done that. They should have done more gotcha stuff like that. Where like, hey, this is imperative. You cannot do side quests. You have to go do this.
Yeah. But I thought this is the part of the game where the story kind of picked up a little bit. It's like, I was like, okay, we got some war going on. The music is becoming more interesting. The characters are more interesting. Stuff's actually happening. I'm getting into this now. Then we get to chapter 10 and 11, which I think might be the most impactful and best part of this game's story.
Probably.
All right. So this is your first example of a 2-chapter battle without being able to go back to the Somniel. And some real shit happens. In chapter 10 specifically, you have to face off against 3 bosses. One is Hortensia, and then you have to face against a corrupted King Hyacinth. Corrupted King Morian. So King Morian is dead. There is no bringing him back. Emblem Marth says, no, he's gone. We just have to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
Hyacinth, the Hyacinth and his constituents are able to bring people back as corrupted.
Yep.
And he brings Morian back as this like shambling corpse of himself.
Yep.
Diamant and Alchrist actually have some really nice battle conversations if you make them face off against their dad.
Which we like on goddamn GameCube.
We love those.
Yep.
So I think that's really nice. Now, During this battle, you face off against King Hyacinth, who uses Lyn against you, and he can be a pretty scary opponent too. I think for the most part, this chapter was very threatening.
Yep.
And I like that a lot when characters threaten me. So you defeat Hyacinth, but you lose anyway because Lord Sombron has returned as this big old dragon. I actually really like the Fell Dragon's design, like this big cobra looking thing.
Yep.
We've had a lot of dark dragons in this series, but they haven't looked like that. I thought it was pretty interesting. And then this got me. He fucking eats King Hyacinth.
That was really funny.
I was like, whoa, what?
Yeah, what's going on here?
I did not expect that to happen. I didn't expect King Hyacinth to be like literally eaten by the dragon god.
Well, I think I texted you. I said, I think this game just got serious.
Yeah, I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And also the reason for this is because Sombron needs sovereign blood to transform into his true self, which is why they needed to eat King Morian. And then he said to Hyacinth, hey, thanks for bringing me back. You're a king, right? Okay, come here. I'm going to eat you too. Essentially how that works. Now, around this time, the robed figure that you saw in the beginning of the game returns and reveals herself to be Vale. But evil Vale, you know, because she has red eyes.
Yep.
And actually, I think her voice is considerably better as evil Vale than it is as good Vale. But she has no recollection of meeting Alir or your party.
Yep.
And you're like, wait, what the fuck? I met you before. And she said, no, you haven't. So essentially, she steals all of your emblem rings.
Yep.
And your draconic time crystal. And while this is happening, Zephia comes back. So you basically become triple fucked when Zephia comes back with the party known as the Four Hounds, which are Gris, Marnie, and Mavier. I'm going to take a quick side note here. I like when Fire Emblem games gives us villain teams.
Yeah, sure.
It's kind of like Metal Gear Solid in a way.
Yeah, the bosses.
Yeah. You know, they're reminiscent of guys like the Black Fang, the Riders of Dayan, stuff like that. Good inclusion. Now get used to these people. You'll be facing them for the next like 400 chapters.
Yeah.
Anyway, so now you have to escape. You have no emblem rings. Vale has stolen them all. She has turned them into their dark dragon version, which means they cannot speak. They become dark emblems. You have no control over them. So you have to escape. You run and you're now in chapter 11. This is an escape map.
Yep.
And it's incredibly intense because Vale shows up. She's got dragons around her and enemies on the map will have your emblem rings.
Yep. So this is a really cool part of the game. It's probably one of the best chapters.
Yeah.
You have to escape to the bottom of the map while there are enemies that take on emblem ring form and try to fuck you up.
Yeah.
And you have nothing.
I got hit once by a multi-target freeze from whoever had the Makai emblem. I was like, oh, what the fuck?
Yeah. It's really, really good.
Now keep in mind, you also do not have the draconic time crystal.
So you can't restart turns either.
No. So I thought that was super effective. I think that's what this game does really well on occasion is gameplay story integration.
Yep.
You have no emblem rings.
Yep.
It's gone. This is also where he mentioned having bond rings is very useful.
Yep.
So
the baby emblem rings.
Yep. So make sure you've got a few of those for taking on this chapter. So eventually you get further down the map. Ivy and her retainers join you. She has defected. Which we all knew because of the promotional material featuring Ivy.
Yep.
But she gives you your draconic time crystal back, and she gives you Lyn and Lucina as emblem rings, which makes a lot of sense. Both of their names start with L, and you took two big, very, very big L's during these maps.
So two big L's.
So it makes a lot of sense. Anyway, you then escape, and boom, you're gone. Also, I should say during this map, the Four Hounds show up as well during the middle of it. And you're like, well, fuck, I got to get moving.
They're chasing you and you have to go down the map.
And they're way too strong. You're not going to kill them.
Yep.
All right. So what are your thoughts on this section of the game?
Well, it's probably the best part of the game.
It was so surprising to me.
I thought what was really cool about this, I did not expect them to take them all away.
Right.
They would take all of your emblem rings away for a while.
Yes.
And so if you didn't do the upgrades you wanted or you didn't get it done, you have nothing.
And this is what I allude to by getting fucked over by not having knife proficiency. They're gone. I couldn't get it. They're all gone.
And so what was really cool is because I invested a little bit in the baby emblem rings, the bond rings, I now could give minor bonuses to my guys.
Yes.
You really felt like you were down and out at this point.
Yeah.
Finally.
Right.
These games do something.
It is. It was pretty cool. I liked it a lot. Now my gripe here, not with this in the main story. If you do the DLC chapters, which by the way, if you buy the DLC, they're available to you before this part, you get access to 6 emblem bracelets.
And so they don't get taken from you?
They don't get taken from you.
Okay.
So I'm just like, if you're playing this game, if you haven't played it yet and maybe you don't care about spoilers, please do yourself a favor. Don't do the DLC, not on your first run, because I think it really takes away from this incredibly impactful moment in the story.
Oh, definitely.
It makes no sense for you to have bracelets because Alir is just like, oh my God, we lost all the emblem rings. Oh, at least I have these bracelets though. It's whatever.
It doesn't make sense.
All right, so next part of the game is kind of strange. You end up in the desert of Solm.
Yep.
I also have some major issues with chapters 12 and 13 in regards to their recruitment. In chapter 12, you're introduced to Fagado and his retainers. I thought because this is a kind of a defend map, you have to rout the enemy while making sure the green units don't get killed. I thought maybe instead of giving you those units, like the retainers, like maybe Bunet, he's a great knight. Maybe he's over there defending the green units and you have to make it over to him or something.
Right.
They don't do anything.
Give you anything. It's really baby stuff.
No. And then chapter 13 might be my least favorite chapter in the game story-wise. I'm going to quote an incredibly funny Fire Emblem YouTuber, Excelblum, where he said he took real-life psychic damage from the meat song, as did I.
Yeah.
That was awful. Was one of the worst things I've ever seen in a Fire Emblem
I just
game.
feel like tonally, this game doesn't make any sense.
That's part of like what the fuck? Come on, man.
What is going on? Like,
also kind of a comedic moment. Solm is the owner of the Ike Ring, which they kind of forgot where it was.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, we're the owner of the most powerful ring canonically, they say the most powerful ring in the world, but I don't know, I think it's in the drunk drawer somewhere, whatever.
Come on.
Just like, okay, whatever. So after you defeat Hortensia, she then joins you in the battle for Solm, and you get the Byleth ring. Pretty good story moment there. You now have Hortensia and Ivy on your team. And after this arc, you've got a few more emblem rings on your side. You're starting to feel a little bit better about yourself. One of the cool parts about that chapter too is you actually have to face off against all the four hounds plus Hortensia.
Yep.
Which is pretty menacing and pretty cool. Or it would have been if you didn't have to face the four hounds for every single chapter after this point too. But whatever, we'll get there. So you finish off the Solm route by recruiting the dancer Seedal and getting Corrin's emblem ring. And then Hortensia's retainers defect, and they give you Erica's ring as well. During this time, Vale muses about a lost sibling, which should be another child of Sombron. If we didn't mention before, Vale is revealed to be the daughter of Sombron. That's why she's on his side collecting emblem rings for him as evil Vale. Good Vale has no idea what the fuck is going on. There's actually a comedic moment a little before this where you see Vale and you say, Vale, what are you doing here? She says, I don't know. And Alir says, how do you not know? It's like, what? Right. Anyway, so how do you feel about the Solm arc of this story?
Nothing. Like, is this the... No, I think this is later, but where's the part you recruit the girl who's wearing like Christmas ornaments?
Oh, that's Solm. That's Tamara.
Yeah. It's just the character designs are stupid.
Yeah.
Like the maps aren't very good. The only good part about this is the story, the little story mention where Vale muses about a lost sibling.
Yeah.
That's the only tidbit you get.
Right. So that's what I thought too after initially playing Solm. When I went back to it, maybe now I wouldn't say perfect, but I feel like it's a really good follow-up. Riley says this often on the show. You can't just have tons of moments of dread after dread after dread after dread. You need a little differentiation in story. Solm is very bright and very cheery, and I think that does pose a really nice contrast from the absolute shit you just took in the chapters prior.
Yeah.
For that, I think Solm is effective, but it does drag on a long time with not a ton of consequential stuff
happening. I kind of skipped through conversations during that one.
Especially the meat song.
Come on.
Feel free to skip that one. All right, so now after Solm, the next two chapters involve you getting back to Elusia to go and kick Sombron's ass, because now you have the other 6 emblem rings. You're ready to go back, plus 6 bracelets if you did the DLC. There's a really great battle at the port where you face off with Vale, Corrupted Hyacinth, and the 4 hounds. And it's it's phrased as Evil Vale says, we have 6 emblem rings. You have 6 emblem rings. Let's see who comes out on top. And it's really just this huge battle in the flaming port. The scenery is awesome.
Yeah.
The gameplay is fantastic. And after this chapter, you are awarded another emblem ring. Because Vale turns good again, and she just throws you Sigurds for some reason, I guess, because the plot demands it. And Corrupted Hyacinth kind of shits out Leaf's ring upon beating him.
Yep.
An important detail here, you learn that Vale can create very lifelike Corrupted. And that is going to come in to play much later in the story. Well, not that much later, but the next few chapters. So be sure to remember that. I think chapter 19, the next one here, the port map, a different port map, kind of rules because of the enemy AI. This is another one where Mavier will continually warp in enemies to come and attack you.
Yep.
And he'll eventually warp in Marnie, a boss, to come in and just rush you. And if you're not prepared, you're screwed.
Yep.
what I don't like about these past few chapters, every single boss is basically one of the 4 hounds.
Yep.
It's like, why are we facing these guys so many times? I'm getting sick of this.
Yep, exactly.
But
and you defeat so many bosses who say, we're going to retreat. I'll come get you later.
I'm like, fuck off, man.
I know.
Just be dead.
Yep.
Ugh, whatever. So now, after chapter 19, after all of this, the emblems have gotten together with Alir off screen.
There's a council of emblems.
Yes, there's a council of emblems. And they say, once we're all together, we can perform the miracle. They don't say what the miracle is, but this will come back at some point.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the next few chapters here involve the Baron Elusia Castle, which is revealed that Sombron got hungry and ate all the castle attendants as snacks.
Yep.
Because he was like, I need more than king's blood. I need to eat everybody now, which is kind of fucked up if you think about it. I think chapter 20 rules. That's the one where you're in the dark and Gris is warping all over the place.
Yeah, it's cool.
And it's actually really cool too. His Ragnarok warp is called... It's called Ragnarok Warp instead of Warp Ragnarok, and there's a reason there. Because he uses Ragnarok and then warps away instead of warping to you and using Ragnarok
I didn't
and
even
sticking
notice
there.
that.
It's a cool little detail.
Yeah.
I think once you hit him once or once he does it a few times, he'll go sit at the top of the map. I actually kind of wish he kept doing it throughout the map.
Yeah.
As a kind
it
of
would
a
be
jump
more
scare.
difficult.
It was cool, I
Yep.
thought. But also regarding this chapter, he reveals something that he's been thinking for a while, that Alir is actually a fell dragon and the son of Sombron and not the son of Lumera.
Yep.
And the reason he says this is the way you summon emblems. He literally gives you the Celica ring and says, yeah, summon this for me. I want to see something. And you're like, okay. So Alir just does it and he goes, that's it. Fell dragons summon through invocations, which is what Alir has been doing the whole time to summon emblem rings. This is actually a cool little detail because when Sombron stole all your emblem rings back in chapter 10, he actually uses the same invocations
Got
that
it.
Alir
So
says.
you wouldn't pick up on that until he brings up this point.
And it all kind of makes sense.
Right, sure.
Yep. So essentially, fell dragons summon through invocations, and Alir was actually almost killed defecting against Sombron during this mythical war 1,000 years ago. He killed Sombron. Sombron dealt a blow to him that almost killed him, and Lumera nursed him back to life by putting him back to sleep and feeding him divine dragon powers somehow.
Okay.
This is why Alir's hair is the way it is.
This is why he's Toothpaste Man.
That's right. Divine dragons have blue hair. Fell dragons have red hair. That's why he has the two-tone hair. I can't fucking believe they actually explain this.
They explain the hair.
Did you expect them to explain this or do anything about that?
I thought red and blue was going to be like you choosing between like, the male and female character.
Right. But
That's
no.
what I thought it was going to be.
But they actually, you know what? Kudos to them. I don't think it's a terrible reason for them to have
fine.
the hair. It worked within the context of the story. I don't have a problem with it.
It makes more sense. Like I said about a lot of this game, it makes more sense than other games in the franchise.
Yes, it does.
Which is surprising.
All right, so now your mission is to return to Lythos Castle because Sombron has escaped. And he is going to Lythos because he wants to raise the ancient land of Gradlon for some reason. So you go to Lythos Castle, and Marnie goes after Vale's helmet, which you've learned the helmet she wears is why she's being mind controlled and why she's going in and out for evil and whatnot. So she goes to smack the helmet. It doesn't work. And then Zephyr kills Marnie for, I don't know, it just takes a stab, but we've killed her like 6 times up to this point. So I don't know, whatever. That also results in Mavir defecting. I don't know, man. I didn't see Mavir defecting.
Right.
The lone not crazy guy in the... okay, it was pretty obvious this guy was going to join your team at some point. So he does join you. Now you fight more members of the Hounds here. It's like, stop this. I'm getting
It
so
just
annoyed.
happens over and over.
Yeah. Oh my God. All right. So Vale overcomes her evil side momentarily after this battle. And now we're getting some really important shit. And she gives you Marth's ring. Sombron does not like this. And he rears up this laser attack. And Alir jumps in front of Vale and is killed. It is mentioned, Alir is dead. Everybody is saying, oh my God, the Divine Dragon's dead. The fuck do we do? Corrupted show up. It's not looking good for your party. Also, Big Evil Dragon is sitting right behind you too. So now in this sort of afterlife thing, Alir meets with Vale's good side because apparently how this works, Vale's good side goes into this afterlife when the evil side takes over, and the evil side comes into the afterlife when the good side takes over.
They played a lot of Death Stranding on this dev team.
So, Alir has the idea to have Vale resurrect him as a corrupted to bring him back. Honestly, I thought this was pretty cool, not only because it tricked me, but because Alir says they are deathly afraid of corrupted, and it's a character moment for them.
Right. I mean, it's not as cool as what I thought they were going to do. I thought they were going to kill off your main guy and you have to make do.
I thought
that would have been
too.
the fucking balls.
So we're going to get there.
Yeah.
One little thing happens because
Yep.
Vale does break the helmet and brings back Alir as a corrupted, and you have to do one chapter as corrupted Alir. And also in the meantime here, Sombron has gotten very large using the Emblem Ring's power, and he has flown away. He's gone. There's no Sombron. You're just with a bunch of corrupted. Now, I thought they would do a little bit more with corrupted Alir.
Yeah.
Because, like, you're only corrupted for one chapter. I thought maybe the enemies in this chapter would have anti-corrupted weapons.
Right.
So, like, or maybe you'd have to go through a couple chapters where you are corrupted. You have to deal with people being like, the Divine Dragon's corrupted.
Where
Why
the
am I
game
worshiping
turns on
him?
its head a little.
Yeah, I thought maybe we didn't.
They don't do it.
I didn't hate that it didn't happen, but I thought maybe it was a little missed opportunity. So Vale also has destroyed her helmet for good. She is good Vale again for the remainder of the game, and she has joined your party. After this chapter, Alir dies again because they have expended all of their energy, and they can no longer be corrupted. They can no longer summon emblems. They're gone. They're dead again. Now, the emblems enact their miracle, which turns Alir into an emblem and brings them back to life.
Yep.
Now, I'm with you on them killing Alir. I thought that maybe Alir would no longer be playable, but an equipable emblem.
That's exactly what I thought was going to... Dude, they should have had the balls to kill off your main guy.
They didn't do it.
Because also, he's not like a super powerful unit.
No.
I thought they would kill him off.
You know what I thought they would do? There's a little game that we haven't covered. It's called Final Fantasy V.
Yeah.
I won't spoil what actually happens, but in that game, a party member dies. Their replacement party member gets all of their stats and skills. I thought maybe Alir becomes an emblem. Vale joins your party as Alir's class, gets all their stats, all
With
the stats.
him as an emblem?
Yes. I thought that was how they were going to do it, and I thought that would have been really cool.
But they didn't do any of that.
No.
Honestly, I wanted them to go balls, go all balls, he's dead.
Yeah.
That would be
I thought
awesome.
so
You get
too.
stripped of it all.
Now, I want to bring up a little bit about resurrection in media and in video games.
Sure.
Sometimes resurrection, I think, is an overplayed thing. It can be a little like cheapening of what the experience is. I think Engage did a pretty good job with resurrecting a character. Because I think when it comes to resurrection in media, as long as it's done in an interesting way, I think you can get away with it. You know, it's cliche to bring a character back from death. But I think the ways they did it in these two chapters, Alir coming back as a corrupted, I didn't expect that.
Yeah, they also, it's kind of woven into the lore that it's a possibility.
Yeah, and I think they did a pretty good job. Now, it's really fucking corny, but they say, you are now the 13th emblem. The Fire Emblem.
Oh my God.
As the Fire Emblem theme plays.
I was
in the
about to say, did
background.
they play the fucking iconic theme too?
They did.
Fine.
You know what? Was it corny? Yes. Is it kind of silly? Yes. Did I love it? Absolutely.
I still liked it.
I loved it. I thought that was great.
I wish they killed you off.
I thought it would have been really cool.
And you came back as an emblem only.
Because like the emblems are still like, they're still characters, they're spirits, but they can still talk. They can still do
awesome.
things. I think that would have been
I've
really
been like,
cool.
wow, this is the fucking best one.
Right? I feel like somebody in the writer's room did think about this, but because we'll get to this, the tone is definitely meant toward younger people. They didn't want to do it. Whatever. So after the events of Lithos Castle, it's revealed that Sombron brought back Gradlon, which is the area right outside Lithos. It used to be the lair of the Fell Dragon back in the day, but was sunken when the Fell Dragon Sombron was defeated. I don't know why he did this, because he's hanging out in his magic sky portal. I don't know why he needs Gradlon to do that, but whatever. If someone knows, let me know. I didn't really know why he did. So now we're going to talk about the final few chapters of this game to the end game. These chapters get fucking weird. All right. The first one is, your mission here is to find all the Fell Dragon shards. Because when you do that, by destroying Fell Dragon Shards, you open a portal into where Sombron is kind of hanging out in this dimension between worlds.
Yep.
So you got to destroy all
You
these
get to go to the moon to fight Majora's Mask.
Yes,
Yeah,
essentially.
okay.
That's a pretty good comparison. I like that. So basically, Sombron is going to destroy this world if you don't get up. Destroy Elyos if you don't get up there. Pretty imperative that you do it, I would say. A lot of urgency here. Now, because Mavir has defected and Marnie is dead, you have one last fight against the two last remaining hounds, Zephyia and Gris, where you finally kill them for good. And Zephyia gives you a crystal to locate the next dragon shard. This scene dragged on for so long. Like Zephyia and Gris's death scene.
I know.
Why?
I don't know.
Dude, like this brings up a huge problem here. They bring up like their sad backstories. Why now?
I don't know.
Why didn't you tell me this earlier?
They're
Why
lore
didn't
dumping.
It's stupid. And like, this is also the kind of battle where, now, in past games where you've had villain teams, you really only face them once. In Scorched Sand of Sacred Stones, you see Valter. You're like, oh shit, Valter's here. This is where I'm going to kill him. And you do.
Mm-hmm.
This is where Kelach is. I'm going to kill him here. This is our climactic battle. In this game, you never really know when the climactic battle is going to be because you face the hounds as bosses of chapters like ever 12 straight chapters.
And it just kind of numbs you out.
Right. Because after this, I'm like, okay, they're going to die yet? I don't know. This chapter, if you had not faced Zephyia or Gris in any sort of battle up until this point, I think it would have really aided in the impact of this chapter. Like, this is it. This is the climactic battle. There's volcano shards throwing shit all over the place. It was a cool set piece, aside from that part and the actual boss battle.
Mm-hmm.
My opinion there. All right. So you use Zephyria's crystal, who she says cryptically will take you to the next shard. It ends up taking you back in time to where you can access this shard, and you face Alir 1,000 years ago as a fell dragon form.
Yep.
So a big problem I have with all of these chapters is, why are you tutorialing the shit out of me here?
Yeah.
You get a lot of prompts like, Dark Alir can summon avalanches every 2 turns. We're going to show you where they go. No, let me fail.
Yeah, exactly.
Let an avalanche hit me. Let me see what happens if I fail it. It doesn't let you do that. And while I think these chapters are really cool, like objective wise, like having to avoid avalanches because they throw you back, I think that's cool. But it tells you how to get away from it.
Yeah, let me experience it, or like put the warning indicator on the map and don't tell me.
Yeah, or have a character say it. Have Alir say, those mountains look bad. It looks like something may cave in. I don't know.
Do anything.
Do anything that doesn't take me out of the experience. I hate it. The game was pretty good about not doing that until this part.
At the end of the game, they baby you too much.
Which I'm like, really? This could have been so cool.
They should kill you off. Let these failure moments happen.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So the next one, the final dragon shard, is kind of a weird one. Because Vale wants to 1v1 your mom, who has come back as a corrupted for some reason. Mm-hmm. This is literally like that one chapter in Fates where your mom comes back and you have to kill her again. It's basically the same thing.
Yep.
The map itself is cool. There's a lot of stuff going on, but then you just face Lumera. She has another very long death scene again, and then she's finally dead for good. Okay, fine. So now after that chapter, you have destroyed all of the Fell Dragon shards. And now we're going to go to the end game. This is the last chapter of the game. Greg, are you ready for the end game?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it.
And it's fine.
It's fine. All right.
It's
so
fine.
Now that you've destroyed all the Fell Dragon shards, the fucking supersonic sky fortress that Sombron has built, there's now a hole in the ozone layer. You can go up there and get to it. Now, Marth warns you, because you're going into an interdimensional space, and you're not of Elyos anymore, as soon as you do this and close up the portal Sombron has created, all of the emblems will disappear. Mm-hmm. Which, you've kind of, I say you, the player, Alir, has really gotten to know a few of these emblems as you've gone along the game. It's like, okay, that's pretty impactful. If I go and do this, you're not given a choice, by the way. Fire Emblem never does this. But you, Alir, have to make the decision, if I go and complete the mission and save Elyos, I will lose my closest confidant. And I think that's a pretty good risk reward for saving the world. I think that was fairly effective. Essentially, if the portal remains closed, Elyos survives, but the emblems will disappear. Essentially what we mean about that. Now, when you confront Sombron, you get another lore dump. Sombron presents to Alir. He said, hey, listen, seal up the portal and go away. I'm done with your world. And you're like, what the fuck? Why? It's revealed that Sombron wants to reunite with, I affectionately call the Mega Man Zero emblem. It's called the Zero Emblem. You're not really sure what it is. He explains that he is not from Elios, and he has been traveling across worlds after being exiled from his to look for his one true friend and confidant, who is the Zero Emblem, also known as the Emblem of Foundations. You don't know who this is. Marth does not know who this is. It's totally up to interpretation. After a short fight, Sombron says, okay, I'm done with this. And he fucks with all your emblems and makes them disappear by closing the portal, which I actually think that was effective.
Yep.
It's an issue I have with a lot of like past Fire Emblem games, like Awakening. Why doesn't Grima just roll over and knock all you off Grima's back?
I don't know.
This one, Sombron says, I should have closed the portal earlier. I'm doing it now. So you're fucked now.
Sure.
You're like, okay, cool. That's fine. But what Sombron doesn't know that Alir is the Fire Emblem and the 13th emblem, and through this power surprises Sombron by being able to bring all of the emblems right back using an Uno reverse card.
That's funny.
I actually think it would have been pretty effective if you had to fight one form of Sombron without your emblem rings.
Yeah, but they don't do that either.
They don't do it, but whatever. So you then defeat human form Sombron, and then he turns into his Fell Dragon form, who is protected by a shield. Like I said before, I really like Sombron's Fell Dragon form as the big serpent-looking thing. I think it's pretty cool. Now, what's really interesting about this final chapter is he has a shield, and that shield is protected by dark emblems he has summoned, which are final bosses or main antagonists from past Fire Emblem games.
Yep, kind of the morph thing from Light. Yep.
Which I thought was really neat.
Yep.
And if you're engaged with a certain emblem, they will do increased damage versus the dark emblem from their game. For example, whoever is engaged with Marth will do increased damage against the Medius emblem.
Sure. Yeah.
Which I think was a really cool, nice little throwback.
Yep, thoughtful.
The battle's not going to last long enough for you to see every single dark emblem, but they do go through every single one from all 12 emblems.
Yep.
So that's why it's actually very important that even if you did the DLC, you should equip all of your characters with the main 12 emblems instead of DLC bracelets, because DLC bracelets aren't going to help you for
the
this
final
part.
boss.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think that was pretty cool. So eventually you defeat Sombron, and then you get some really strange cutscene, which I ascribe a lot in this game, very strange cutscenes, where Alir says, listen, Sombron, you're no longer our father. We're going to give you one last chance. Summon your Emblem of Foundations. Let's see if it works. He does. And he claims to see the emblem while Alir, Marth, and Vale saying, we don't see anything. We don't really know what's going on here. So whether he's being delusional in death or he actually summoned something only he can see, we don't really know. What I want to ask you, what do you think the Zero Emblem is?
The sequel?
I thought maybe it would have been Sami.
Oh, that would be really funny.
My actually initial impression here, which was really funny, I thought it was going to be like Shizukaga, like the founder of the series.
Oh, wow.
I thought maybe that was it. That's been parodied online a little bit.
Honestly, the sequel.
Probably, or maybe the player yourself.
Maybe the player.
I don't know, because if Marth doesn't know them, chances are they either don't exist.
I thought maybe this is symbolism because he's looking at his son. And
it could be
you.
Yeah, that's possible too.
That's kind of what I thought it was, where he's being delusional and he's looking at you.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a ambiguous sort of ending.
Yeah, sure.
But anyway, Sombron is dead. You're closing up the portal. The emblems all say some parting words, and they disappear from the world. Start credits. You actually get, at the very end of the credits, you actually get a hand-drawn art of Alir in the center of all the emblems.
Yeah, it's cute.
I thought that was a really nice
Why couldn't the whole
touch.
game look like that?
I know.
Yeah, I know.
It was hand-drawn. I thought it was a really nice touch. Okay, so now we're going to get into our final thoughts about the story.
Yep.
I don't think the story is good. I don't think the story is bad. I think the story is there. There are some stupid, cringy parts that I can kind of just like shoo away. But I'm actually going to hearken our host Riley again. He says sometimes when you have a game with such good gameplay, as long as the story's not great, as long as it doesn't get in the way, it doesn't detract from the experience all that much.
This game, I don't think I can be that nice to this game.
Yeah.
I think it definitely detracts from the story in the first 5 or 6 chapters.
Sure, yeah.
Or just, I have nothing keeping me going besides watching my stat numbers go up.
Sure.
I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Also, like, I can't go that far because this game has a handful of moments that are interesting.
Yes.
When you get all your emblem rings taken
Yeah.
from you. When your main character dies.
Right.
They should have kept you dead.
I know.
And like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
They had chances to make it interesting.
Yeah.
Also, the meat song and the desert
stupid.
stuff, the person wearing Christmas ornaments, like, it looks really terrible.
Yeah, so that's why I think if anybody calls this game this game's story bad or the worst in the series. They are incorrect.
Yeah.
By the way,
because that's Fates.
By the way, that's Fates. By the way, Fire Emblem is not this paragon of incredible storytelling, by the way.
Yeah,
you shouldn't be expecting this.
And Three Houses was not either.
Right. The best story is Path of Radiance, Genealogy of War. No, I will not take any criticisms about that.
Yeah, sure.
But like, this series is not known for super incredible plot lines. This series is known for casts of characters, leveling up your units, and some really good story and gameplay integration. And I think Fire Emblem Engage does a pretty damn good job of story and gameplay integration at times. It has its moments, and I think it's way better than the likes of Fates' story.
Yeah.
Where I think it falls is the tone.
Yep.
So I believe this game was written for a younger audience.
Yeah, for sure. I think the two moments where I've brought it up before, but the two moments where they almost get you going.
Yeah.
It's more interesting than anything I saw in Three Houses.
Yeah, I agree. I think when this game has some really high highs to its story.
I just wish they went all the way.
Me too. That's why I think this game was made for younger audiences. So in closing, we are going to get to our final thoughts about the game in general. I've talked a lot. Greg, I want to take it first.
Okay.
Give your final thoughts. I want you to give a grade. And I also want you to not rate the individual other Fire Emblem games. Because keep in mind, we did not grade them last time.
Yeah.
So where would you put Fire Emblem Engage on like a tier list or like in Fire Emblem's history? Where would you put it? What is it better than? What is it worse than?
That's tough.
So grade and that. Let me know. Anything else you want to say?
It's tough. When I was thinking about, when we ran through this game, I went through a series of emotions.
Yeah.
Like I thought the first couple of chapters were like unbearably bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like I hated the intro song. Oh my God. Do you know what we didn't talk about?
What?
When you click start, a character says Fire Emblem Engage.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
I hated that.
Yeah.
A lot of the voice acting is terrible.
Yeah.
A lot of the story beats are terrible. But like the gameplay is better than any Fire Emblem gameplay I've played probably since the Game Boy Advance.
It's in a long time.
Or Wii, GameCube, those two.
Honestly, it's the best gameplay I've seen in a long time.
I mean, I don't like the gameplay of Awakening and Fates and Three Houses. Okay. I don't like them.
Yeah.
This is a tricky game to grade.
Yeah.
I think this game is probably a B-. I also think Three Houses is a B-, but I hate on them for different reasons.
Yeah. I agree because I think they're kind of incomparable at a point.
Yeah.
They set out to create a very different game with Engage, and they did.
Yeah. I enjoyed playing Engage much more than Three Houses.
Yeah.
But Three Houses just they put together the aesthetic production much better.
And when it comes to Three Houses too, I think the tone is better. It's more serious.
Yeah.
Three Houses, you don't get this goofy shit like the meat song.
Yeah. That's really tough.
Yeah.
It's probably a B-.
Yeah.
Where do I rate it in terms of all of them?
Yeah. Would you like, is it better or worse than GBA? Better or worse than GameCube Wii? Is it kind of on the level of Fates?
This is probably I can't believe I'm saying this because of how much bad shit is in this, but this is probably my favorite one from the past 10 years.
I would agree with that.
Like, I like this game more than Awakening, more than Fates, and more than Three Houses. I don't like it more than GameCube or Wii, and I don't like it more than GBA. It's probably right in the middle, right? It starts the bottom tier, right? It's probably at the top of the bottom.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I'm going to agree with you. My tiering is basically the same. My grade is basically the same too. I'm going to give it a B.
Okay.
I thought the gameplay is incredible, and I could skip the story now that I've seen it. If I want to replay this game, there's a lot of stuff you can play with, and it's really cool. Unfortunately, because of the story and because of the aesthetics, this game I don't think will age very well.
No.
The gameplay might, but I don't think the game itself will age well. People still talk about Three Houses. That game has a lot of staying power. I don't think this game will.
I don't think Three Houses has a lot of staying power either. Like, people just don't agree with me.
Well, I guess that's true.
They just don't agree with me.
I guess that's true.
I have problems with both of those games just for different reasons.
Yeah.
It's difficult. I just feel like there has not been a Fire Emblem game that's knocked it out of the park since like GameCube Wii.
Yeah,
Back
I agree.
Then. Not really.
Yeah.
And then we've gone very long here. Yep. We should probably get to the end. Nick, unless you have anything else to say, we're going to wrap.
So the only thing I want to say here, my final thoughts is, almost what I said with Three Houses. I don't want to see this sort of tone again. Because I feel like, as a longtime fan of this series, I'm starting to outgrow the direction they're taking.
Yes.
And that scares me a little. I love this series very much.
Yep.
The games are usually written for like a teenager to like young adult to kind of adult manner.
Yeah.
This game is written for people way younger than that.
Yeah, sure.
And I hope that doesn't continue. I hope they take cues from the gameplay. I want to see most of these gameplay features come back.
Yep.
But I hope the tone they take with the next one is more similar to what we've seen in the past with like the older
Yeah,
titles.
sure, I do too.
And that is my final thought on Fire Emblem Engage.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. So, Nick, thank you for leading the way on this one. I will say this. I do really appreciate their respect for the old games in the franchise.
Yeah.
Like Super Nintendo, the old ones, American fans that never
Yes.
had a chance to play them.
Yes, true.
I think we're going to see some remasters, some remakes next.
Yep.
But we've gone very long. We're going to end this for now. This was Fire Emblem Engage, and we will see you all next time on Goddamn GameCube.